What's up everyone, how are we doing? Probably pretty scunnered if you feel anything like I do at the moment. I'm just sick, tired, fed up of chatting about Neil Lennon, this struggling team, the board, stuff like that. So we're going to deviate slightly on today's video, although it does obviously link into Celtic, obviously with it being a Celtic YouTube channel. On that note, remember to subscribe to 67 Hail Hail if you've not done it yet. That's all I'm going to say for this video. Now, in terms of problems this season, it's fair to say that the vast majority, lately anyway, of Celtic's problems have come in a defensive sense. The amount of goals we're shipping, the performances of the likes of Christopher Ajer, Shane Duffy, the positioning of the fullbacks, and obviously the goalkeeping issues we have, they've kind of stole the show lately. But if you look at this entire season, it's fair to say that the attackers, and more particularly the strikers, haven't lived up to the hype either. We started this year with Odsonne Edouard, a player who scored 9 goals this season. It seems a lot more than I can actually remember. I think a lot of them came at the start of the season, but he has looked really frustrated and uninterested for a lot of this season. I've had Albion Ajeti come into the club, who's scored 5 goals. Lee Griffiths has 3 and Patrick Klimala has 3. But when you consider that Ajeti and Griffiths barely look fit at the moment, I think they're both carrying a little bit of extra weight. And Patrick Klimala just looks like he's not going to get much of an opportunity this season, and it looks like a loan move might be good for him. When you add all that together and you consider those 4 players and the fact that they've not scored a hell of a lot of goals this season for a club like Celtic, it does look like a bit of a concerning part of the team. It may not get the same headlines as the defence, as Duffy, as Barkas, as Scott Brown in the midfield, but it's a problem nonetheless. But hey ho, at least we didn't miss out on any brilliant signings in the striker department in the summer. Oh yes, we did. Ivan Toney, remember that name? The Peterborough United striker who has gone on to Brentford and is having one hell of a season. More on that in a wee second, but the reason I'm doing this video again, and we've spoken about Toney in the past, I think we even did a video with Jackie McNamara on him when it looked like he was possibly going to be coming to Scotland. The reason this is all resurfaced and the reason I'm doing this updated video on Toney is that we've got some fresh comments from the Peterborough United Director of Football, Barry Fry. Now, before I go into these comments, it is worth pointing out that Fry and the Peterborough United chairman, whose name is Dara McAntony, both seem to have it in for Celtic, and they both seem to absolutely love the prestige and the hype of getting into the Scottish press. So they always have something to say. You can never negotiate with Peterborough in a private sense. It's always out in the public domain. I'm sick, tired, fed up of them, to be honest, but I'm going to give them exposure in this video anyway because I'm even sicker of what's happening at Celtic at the moment. So Barry Fry has been speaking lately about Celtic's interest in Toney in the summer and also Toney's interest in a move to Scotland. This is what he had to say. Ivan wanted to go to Celtic because of the relationship he had with Gavin Strachan through working with him at Peterborough last season. And let's be fair, Celtic are also one of the biggest clubs in the world with their support. At the time, they were prepared to give him, that's Toney, $25,000 a week, more than what the others were prepared to. That said, he's got a better deal at Brentford. Brentford really wanted him and did their homework, but Ivan would have walked to Celtic. So Toney did move to Brentford. The chat, as per Sky Sports News, was that it was £5 million up front that the Bees paid the Posh. Just terrible English football nicknames. But anyway, apparently it rises to £10 million with performance-based add-ons, and if Peterborough were very clever or any sort of intelligence, then they would have made it about the goals that Toney scored, and if that was the case, they will be in line to make a pretty penny, because goals, let's just say that he has scored a lot of them since moving to Brentford. He's scored 14 goals in Brentford's last 14 matches. I was looking at his scoring record, and the biggest compliment I can pay him is that none of those 14 and 14 are hat-tricks. I think he's got 2 braces, but he's only not scored in 2 or 3 matches out of those 14. He is the very definition of prolific, Ivan Toney, and at only 24 years old, you can just imagine where he's going to go to in the coming years. You look at the striker he's replaced at Brentford, the striker Ollie Watkins, who moved to Aston Villa for an enormous sum in the summer. He's now, on the verge of an England call-up, so you can imagine what Ivan Toney's going to be thinking in the next couple of years, and it just looks like a massive missed opportunity from a Celtic point of view. Toney is the joint top scorer in the English Championship with those 14 goals. He's level with Blackburn Rovers man Adam Armstrong. So, when Toney moves at the summer or next year, whenever it is, it's going to be for upwards of 30 million, possibly 40 million, given how inflated the English market is at the moment. It just seems like a massive missed opportunity. Yes, he may have struggled in Scotland, you never know, but when you look at that scoring record in the English Championship, you can only imagine how many goals he would have scored for Celtic by now. We went for Albion Ajeti instead in the summer. I'm not going to rubbish Ajeti at all in this video because I actually happen to quite like him. He started on fire. He had a scoring record that even Toney would be proud of this season. I think Ajeti scored 5 goals in his first 5 or 6 appearances for the club, and a lot of them were from the bench. However, Ajeti hasn't scored since the end of September in that 3-0 win over Hibs, which incidentally was the last time we actually won a game at Celtic Park. So it's no coincidence that Ajeti was performing at his best when Celtic were performing well, and now that our performances have gone off a cliff, so have his. It isn't helping though that he's getting, sporadic appearances here and there from Neil Lennon. He's starting one week, he's then coming off the bench the next, then he's getting no action at all. Ajeti hasn't played a full 90 minutes for the club yet, which, considering he signed 4 or 5 months ago, I think is a bit of a scandal. I just don't think that's good at all, but you could say that for so many of the strikers that we've signed this year. But I'm not going to write Ajeti off. He clearly knows how to score goals. He just needs to play in a formation, in my opinion, alongside another striker like Odsonne Edouard, who can do a bit of the creative element and allow Ajeti to be the poacher that we all know he can be. So yes, it just seems a real missed opportunity from Celtic that we didn't move for Ivan Toney in the summer or bring him in. If he's moved for the 5 million, rising to £10 million, that was very much in our ballpark, especially when you consider that we spent the guts of 2 million, I think, on Shane Duffy's loan for this season. We spent 5 million on Barkas, who doesn't seem to be up for it at the moment, and also 5 million on Albion Ajeti, with some clauses there to take that fee up as well. We could certainly have afforded to bring in Toney, and God, what would he be worth now if we'd have done that? It just seems like another mistake we made during the course of the summer, but I guess in many ways this video is pretty redundant. It's like the John McGinn stuff. It's over, it's done with, and we've got to deal with what we've got at the club right now. We've got to try and get the best out of Albion Ajeti and the other 3 strikers at the club. We've got to get them all scoring goals and get them happy again, because that is going to be one of the secret recipes for getting our season back on track. When you look in January of this year, when we were really struggling, the 2 men who really got us going in those early matches in the year were Odsonne Edouard and Lee Griffiths. I would love to see Neil Lennon playing 2 up front again, but not this daft 3-5-2. Why not just play a straight 4-4-2 that worked for him with Stokes and Hooper in his first term at the club? I don't understand why he wouldn't do it. He's tried everything else. Give 4-4-2 a go with 2 strikers up front and see how it goes. We're stuck with Ajeti now. I think he'll come good, but God, we really missed the boat on not bringing Ivan Toney in.